The morning sun cast long shadows across New Eden's golden wheat fields when the first ships appeared in the sky. Farmer Min was checking his crops when he saw them, dark shapes moving against the blue morning light. At first, he thought they were Earth transport ships bringing supplies. Then, the bombing started. The plasma beams struck the settlement center first, turning the school into a crater of melted stone and twisted metal. Children who had been playing in the courtyard simply vanished in the white-hot light. The hospital came next, then the residential blocks where families were eating breakfast. Commander Jin was in his office reviewing supply reports when the ground shook. His coffee cup fell and shattered on the floor. The emergency alarms started screaming through the base speakers. He ran to the window and saw the alien ships hovering over his colony like giant metal insects. "Sir?" Lieutenant Nam burst through his door, her face pale with shock. "We're under attack." The hegemony fleet just appeared out of nowhere. Jin grabbed his weapon and "Come unit. Get me a count on civilian casualties. Send out evacuation orders to all sectors." But it was already too late. The alien ships moved with cold precision, targeting the evacuation centers where people had gathered for safety. The community center, where hundreds of families huddled together, disappeared in a ball of fire. The transport station where people waited for rescue ships became smoking ruins. Jin's sister, Yuna, had been teaching at the elementary school that morning. His two nephews, ages 6 and 8, were in her class learning about Earth's history. When the school took a direct hit, there was nothing left to find. The attack lasted 6 hours. When the alien ships finally departed, they left behind a message broadcast on all frequencies. "This world has been claimed under Galactic Statute 447B for resource acquisition. Resistance was considered hostile action. The hegemony regrets any inconvenience." 50,000 people were dead. Most of them were farmers, teachers, children, and elderly colonists who had never held a weapon in their lives. Jin walked through the wreckage of what had been New Eden's main street. The bakery where his nephews bought candy was a pile of rubble. The park where families had picnics on weekends was now a crater filled with twisted metal and ash. Bodies lay everywhere, covered by emergency blankets that did nothing to hide the scope of the tragedy. Commander Nam approached him carefully. "We're getting reports from other sectors. They hit the refugee camps first. They wanted maximum casualties." Jin stopped walking. His hands shook as he pulled out his communicator to contact Earth Command. When Director Kim's face appeared on the screen, Jin could barely speak. "Sir, New Eden is gone. They killed everyone they could find. Women, children, old people. They targeted the schools and hospitals first." Director Kim's face went white. His own daughter, Hannah, had been visiting New Eden on a student exchange program. She was supposed to return to Earth next week for her 9th birthday. "How many survivors?" Kim asked quietly. "Maybe 5,000 out of 55,000 colonists. Most of the survivors are people who were working in the outer fields when the attack started." Kim closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were cold as winter stars. "I'll contact the Galactic Confederation immediately. They'll have to respond to this." 3 days later, Earth's Ambassador Lee stood before the Confederation Council on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from 100 different species, all sitting in their comfortable seats, looking bored. Lee played the recordings from New Eden, video of children running from plasma fire, audio of parents screaming for their babies, pictures of the school crater where 43 young humans had been learning to read. 50,000 innocent civilians, Lee said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Murdered in cold blood for no crime except living on a world the hegemony wanted. The Vrex representative, a tall creature with silver skin and black eyes, spoke in a voice like grinding metal. The humans were informed of the legal claim. They chose to resist lawful acquisition. They were farmers and children. Li shouted. What threat could they possibly pose to your war fleets? The Culturi delegate, a being made of living crystal, pulsed with cold light. The law is clear. Resistance to legal claims may be met with appropriate force. Ambassador Li looked around the chamber. He saw alien faces that showed no emotion, no sympathy, no understanding of what had been lost. These beings saw 50,000 human lives as nothing more than a legal inconvenience. What will the Confederation do about this? Li asked. The council speaker, an ancient creature that looked like a floating jellyfish, spoke in a voice like whispers. We will form an investigation committee. The matter will be reviewed according to proper procedures. A report will be issued within 2 standard years. 2 years. While the bodies of human children lay in mass graves on New Eden, the galaxy's greatest powers would shuffle paperwork and hold meetings. Li left the chamber in silence. Outside, his aide was waiting. What did they say? The aide asked. They offered us forms to fill out, Li replied, his voice bitter with rage. Back on Earth, Director Kim sat in his office, staring at pictures of his daughter Hannah. She had been so excited about visiting the agricultural colony, learning how humans grew food among the stars. General Park entered the room. Jin's father looked older than his years, carrying the weight of his son's report and his own grief. The president wants options, General Park said quietly. Kim looked up from his daughter's picture. In his eyes was something new and terrible, the cold fury of a species that had been pushed too far. Tell the president, we're done asking nicely. Dr. Cho stood in what had been Seoul University's biology lab just 3 months ago. Now the walls were lined with alien tissue samples, weapon schematics, and holographic displays showing ship designs from 20 different species. The smell of chemicals and metal filled the air where students once studied peaceful sciences. Show me the Vrex energy weapon again, Cho said to his assistant Dr. Han. The hologram displayed a massive cannon that glowed with blue fire. Han pointed to different parts as he spoke. They put all their power into these plasma beams. Very strong, but they take 30 seconds to charge between shots. And look here, they can only fire in straight lines. Cho nodded and pulled up another display. Now show the Culturi kinetic weapons. A different weapon appeared, a railgun that fired metal slugs at incredible speed. Fast firing, good against shields, but useless against thick armor. And they only work at close range. And the Nexari defensive systems? Han switched to a shield generator display. Their barriers stop energy weapons completely, but kinetic rounds go right through them like they're not there. Cho smiled for the first time in weeks. The aliens think in straight lines. Each species perfected one type of fighting and never learned from the others. But we studied them all. He walked to a new hologram showing a human ship design. It was smaller than alien vessels, but covered in different weapon types. Energy cannons from the Vrex, railguns from the Culturi, shield generators from the Nexari, all working together in ways no alien had ever imagined. We take the best from everyone and make it better, Cho explained to the team of scientists watching. While they argue about whose weapons are superior, we build ships that use all of them. Across the planet, the transformation was happening, everywhere. Samsung shipyards that once built cargo vessels, now constructed warships. The same engineers who designed smartphones were creating targeting computers that could track 1,000 enemies at once. Hyundai's car factories retooled their assembly lines to build plasma cannons and missile launchers. In Busan, factory worker Sue worked 16-hour shifts building ship hulls. Her brother had died on New Eden, killed while trying to evacuate children from a burning school. Every piece of metal she welded was for him. How many ships this week? Her supervisor Min asked. 47 completed, 15 more by tomorrow, Sue replied, wiping sweat from her face. The night shift says they can do better. Min shook his head in amazement. Before the attack, we built maybe 10 ships per month. Now we're building 50 per week. We're not the same people we were before, Sue said quietly. New Eden changed us. Captain Song stood on the bridge of humanity's first true warship. The EFS Vengeance was nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels Earth had built before. Sleek and fast, it carried weapons from 4 different alien technologies, all improved by human engineering. Status report, Song ordered his crew. All weapons systems online, reported Weapons Officer Park. Energy cannons charged, kinetic batteries loaded, missile tubes ready. Shield generators at full power. Navigation ready, called out Lieutenant Kim. New jump drive tested and operational. Song looked at the tactical display showing the hegemony's territory. Red dots marked their military bases, supply depots, and mining colonies. Soon those dots would start disappearing. Helm, set course. For the Kelta system, it's time to begin. The jump drive activated with a sound like thunder. Unlike alien ships that moved slowly through hyperspace, the Vengeance vanished and reappeared instantly, arriving at its target before enemies could react. On Earth, President Beak addressed the nation from the steps of the Blue House. Behind him, the skyline of Seoul showed construction cranes building new military facilities. The peaceful city was becoming a fortress. My fellow humans, Beak began, 6 months ago, we lost 50,000 innocent lives to alien cruelty. The galaxy told us to accept this murder as legal. They told us to file paperwork and wait for justice that would never come. The crowd listening was filled with people who had lost family on New Eden, parents who would never see their children again, children who would grow up without parents. Their faces showed a cold anger that had replaced their grief. Today, we give the galaxy our answer, Beak continued. We have spent these months building, learning, preparing. We have taken the best of alien technology and made it our own. We have become something new. He gestured to the sky, where human warships could be seen moving between the stars. The hegemony thought they could kill our people without consequences. They forgot that humans learn from every enemy we face. They forgot that we never forget those who harm our children. In his laboratory, Dr. Cho received a message from the fleet. The first human warships were ready to depart. Years of peaceful scientific exchange had given humanity samples of every major alien technology. Now those gifts would become weapons. Dr. Han approached with a worried expression. Are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see us as peaceful explorers again. Cho looked at pictures on his desk, images from New Eden showing human children who would never grow up. They already decided what they think of us when they murdered our families. Now they'll learn what we think of them. He activated his communicator and sent a message to every human fleet commander. All weapons tested and ready. Begin operations immediately. Across human space, captains received the same simple order. The hunt was about to begin. Admiral Kang watched the tactical display as his fleet moved through hyperspace toward the Brex mining system of Kelta-4. 20 human warships, invisible to alien sensors, carried enough firepower to destroy a small planet. But destruction wasn't the goal today. Fear was. Drop us out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, Kang ordered. Remember, we hit fast and leave faster. Make them watch their empire burn. The bridge crew nodded silently. Each officer had lost someone on New Eden. Kong's own son had been visiting the colony's university when the plasma bombardment began. There hadn't been enough left to bury. Hyperspace exit in 3, 2, 1. Space twisted around them and suddenly they were there, hanging in the darkness above Kelta-4. The Vrex mining stations spread across the asteroid field like glittering insects, completely undefended. The aliens had never imagined anyone would dare attack their territory. Sir, detecting 3 patrol ships approaching, reported Sensors Officer Lee. They're hailing us. Put them through. The view screen showed a Vrex commander, its silver skin rippling with confusion. When it spoke, its voice sounded like scraping metal. Unknown ships, you are in violation of hegemony space. Identify yourselves. Immediately. Kong leaned forward in his command chair. This is Admiral Kong of the Earth Fleet. We're here to collect payment for New Eden. New Eden, that was a legal acquisition. You have no Kong, cut the transmission and turned to his weapons. Officer, fire. The human ships unleashed their hybrid weapons systems. Energy beams designed by the Vrex themselves, improved by human engineering, tore through the mining stations like paper. Kinetic rounds from Kulthari-inspired railguns shattered asteroid processing plants. The patrol ships tried to fight back, but their slow-charging plasma cannons couldn't track the fast-moving human vessels within 17 minutes. 300 years of Vrex mining infrastructure was burning debris floating in space. The miners who survived broadcast desperate surrender signals, but the human fleet was already preparing to jump away. Admiral, Communications Officer Park reported, the surviving miners are begging for mercy. They say they're just workers, not soldiers. Kong thought of the children who had begged for mercy on New Eden. The aliens hadn't listened then. Tell them this message is for their leaders. Every day they delay surrendering, another system burns. The fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Vrex to count their losses and wonder where the humans would strike next. Captain Park, Jin's younger brother, led the second wave of attacks against Kulthari supply convoys. His squadron of fighter ships waited in the shadow of a dead moon, watching the alien transport fleet approach their ambush point. Remember your training, Park spoke into his com. They're bigger and stronger, but we're faster and smarter. Hit them from 3 directions. At once. The Kulthari convoy was massive. 12 cargo ships carrying weapons and supplies, protected by 4 heavy battleships. The escort vessels were built like flying fortresses, covered in thick armor and bristling with weapons. In a straight fight, they could destroy Park's entire squadron. But humans didn't fight straight fights anymore. All units, attack pattern, Delta, go, go, go. The human fighters came from above, below, and both sides simultaneously. The Kulthari battleships, designed to fight enemies in front of them, couldn't track targets coming from multiple directions. Their heavy weapons were too slow to hit the darting human ships. Park's fighter dove between 2 battleships, firing kinetic rounds into their engine sections. Behind him, his wingman pilot Song launched missiles at a cargo ship's fuel tanks. The explosion lit up space like a new star. This is for New Eden, Park shouted as he destroyed another transport. Around him, his pilots echoed the battle cry that was becoming famous across human space. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it ended, the entire convoy was destroyed or disabled. Park's squadron had lost only 2 fighters. The survivors were already jumping to their next target. Meanwhile, Commander Lee sat in Earth's Military Intelligence Center, watching reports flood in from across hegemony space. Her teams tracked every alien ship movement, every supply route, every military base. The information that once helped peaceful trade now guided human warfleets to their targets. Status report, Director Kim asked as he entered the intelligence center. 37 successful raids in the past month, Lee replied, pointing to a holographic map of hegemony territory. We've destroyed 60% of their mining operations and 40% of their supply convoys. Their fleets are running low on fuel and spare parts. Kim studied the map, noting how the red areas showing hegemony strength were shrinking every day. Any response from their military? They're trying to protect everything at once, Lee explained. Their big battleships are too slow to catch our raiders. By the time they arrive at an attack site, we're already gone, and civilian casualties. Lee's expression didn't change. We target only military and industrial facilities. No civilian populations have been harmed. Kim nodded. Unlike the aliens who had murdered children on New Eden, Humans still followed rules of war. But those rules were getting harder to remember with each passing day. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Jin received the latest intelligence reports. Hegemony forces were in chaos, their supply lines bleeding resources into space. Their member species were beginning to question the wisdom of fighting humanity. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're detecting increased chatter on hegemony communication networks. They're starting to panic." Jin looked at the tactical display, showing human fleet positions throughout enemy space. Each fleet was hunting, striking, and vanishing like ghosts in the darkness. "Good," he said quietly. "Let them learn what fear feels like. But this is just the beginning." The assault on Vrex Prime began at dawn on their homeworld. General Yoon watched from his command ship as 1,000 human vessels surrounded the planet like a steel net. Below them, billions of Vrex civilians looked up at the dark shapes blocking out their silver sun. "Sir, the planet's defense grid is attempting to power up," reported Colonel Shin. "Destroy it," Yoon ordered, without emotion. "All of it." The human fleet opened fire with weapons the Vrex had never seen before. Energy beams that curved around obstacles, kinetic rounds that split into smaller projectiles, missiles that thought for themselves and hunted their targets. The planetary shields that had protected Vrex Prime for 1,000 years crumbled in minutes. "General," Communications Officer Nam spoke carefully, "the planetary government is requesting surrender terms." Yoon thought of New Eden's children, how they had begged for mercy while alien ships burned their schools. Tell them surrender was an option 6 months ago. Now there are only consequences. The bombardment continued for 3 days. But General Yoon's forces didn't just destroy, they transformed. Human terraforming ships, originally designed to make dead worlds livable, now did the opposite. They pumped oxygen into Vrex Prime's methane atmosphere, turning the very air into poison for the silver-skinned aliens. "Sir, civilian evacuation ships are launching from the surface," Colonel Shin reported. "They're requesting safe passage to leave the system." Yoon stared at the fleeing ships through his viewport. Inside were families, children, elderly Vrex who had never hurt anyone. For a moment, he hesitated. Then he remembered his nephew's face in the school pictures from New Eden. 8 years old, bright smile, dreams of becoming a pilot, turned to ash by Vrex plasma fire. "Denied," Yoon said. "They chose their side when they supported the murder of our children." The evacuation ships tried to run, but human fighters were faster. One by one, they fell silent in space. Meanwhile, Admiral Kim's battle fleet surrounded the Cul-3 homeworld. The crystal beings had built their cities inside massive geodes, thinking their underground homes were safe from attack. They were wrong. "Begin orbital bombardment," Kim ordered. "Target the city geodes first." Human weapons pounded the crystal cities until they shattered like glass. The beautiful formations that had taken millennia to grow became radioactive dust in hours. The proud warrior species that had laughed at human weakness now broadcast desperate pleas in 100 languages. Captain O lead ground forces on the Cul-3 surface, hunting down the last military units hiding in the crystal caves. Her soldiers moved through the tunnels with Allion-enhanced night vision, carrying weapons that could melt stone. "Captain," Sergeant Park reported, "we found a group of Cul-3 younglings in the deep caves. They're asking for protection." O stopped walking. The Cul-3 younglings were barely 3 feet tall, their crystal bodies dim with fear. They looked so small, so helpless, like human children might look to alien invaders. "What are your orders, Captain?" Park asked. O closed her eyes and saw New Eden burning, saw human children running from plasma fire, heard their screams echoing in her nightmares. "No survivors," she said quietly. "We finish this today." Back on Earth, President Beeks stood before the Global Assembly. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every human nation, their faces hard with shared purpose. Outside, The lights of military factories burned day and night. The hegemony is broken, Beak announced. Their fleets are scattered. Their worlds are falling. Their civilians are fleeing into deep space. Some of you have asked if we should offer mercy. The hall was silent. Everyone remembered the recordings from New Eden, the images of murdered children, the alien voices laughing about legal acquisition. I have one answer, Beak continued. Where was their mercy when our children died? Where was their compassion when they turned our colony into a graveyard? The assembly erupted in angry shouts. Representatives who had once been teachers, doctors, and engineers now called for total war. The peaceful species that had joined the galaxy with hope and friendship was gone forever. We will not stop, Beak declared, until every world that supported the New Eden massacre pays the price, until every species that laughed at human weakness learns to fear human anger. Director Kim received reports in his underground command center. The walls were covered with tactical displays showing human forces across the galaxy. Green indicators marked successful operations. Red marks showed alien resistance that was being eliminated. Status of the hegemony worlds. Kim asked his aide. Vrex Prime is now uninhabitable. Oxygen levels too high for their survival. Kulthari Prime has been reduced to asteroid debris. The Nexari homeworld surrendered this morning after we demonstrated our new planet-cracking weapons. Kim nodded. His daughter Hannah would have been 10 years old today. He had planned a birthday party with cake and presents and friends from school. Instead, he was planning the extinction of entire civilizations. What about civilian casualties? He asked. His aide hesitated. Approximately 4 billion alien civilians have died or been displaced. Some of our commanders are requesting permission to establish refugee camps. Kim looked at pictures of New Eden, at the crater where a human school once stood. Refugees become rebels. Rebels become threats. We're not making the same mistake twice. The aide understood. There would be no mercy, no second chances, no hope of alien recovery. The species that had destroyed New Eden would join the children they murdered. Sir, the aide said quietly, some of our own people are asking if we've gone too far. Kim turned to face him, his eyes cold as winter's space. Ask the parents of New Eden if we've gone too far. Ask the teachers who died protecting their students. Ask the children who will never grow up. He paused, looking at the tactical displays showing human dominance spreading across the galaxy. We became what we needed to become. History will judge whether it was right or wrong, but our children will live to see that history, and theirs won't. 5 years after New Eden burned, Admiral Jin Park stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest dreadnought, watching the last hegemony stronghold surrender. The massive fortress that had once commanded 3 star systems now broadcast white flags on all frequencies. Its weapons were silent, its shields down, its crew begging for terms that would never come. Sir, the fortress commander is requesting to speak with you personally, reported communications officer. Li Jin looked at the alien structure through the reinforced viewport. Inside were the last military leaders who had planned the New Eden massacre, the beings who had laughed about legal acquisition while human children burned. Tell them I'll accept their surrender in person, Jin said. Prepare a boarding party. An hour later, Jin walked through the fortress corridors, surrounded by human marines. The alien defenders had laid down their weapons and stood against the walls, their various species united only in defeat. Vrex with their silver skin, Kulthari with their crystal bodies, Nexari with their tentacled faces, all watching the humans with fear. The fortress commander was a Vrex general named Zektar, his metallic skin scarred from years of warfare. He stood in the center of the command room, trying to maintain dignity, even in surrender. Admiral Park Zektar spoke in broken human language. I formally surrender this facility and all remaining hegemony forces. We request prisoner of war status under galactic law. Jin walked slowly around the alien commander, studying him. Galactic law. The same law you used to justify murdering 50,000 civilians. That was ... different. A military necessity, Jin's sidearm was in his hand before Zektar could finish speaking. The plasma bolt took the alien general in the chest, dropping him to the deck in a pool of silver blood. No prisoners, Jin told his marines. No exceptions. The last battle of the war lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, the hegemony as a political entity ceased to exist. Back on Earth, Director Kim sat in his office, reading final casualty reports. The walls were covered with pictures of human colonies, not just New Eden, but the dozens of new worlds humanity had claimed from defeated enemies. Gardens grew where alien cities once stood. Human children played in parks built on the graves of their parents' killers. Sir, General Park entered the room. The Galactic Confederation is requesting a meeting. They want to discuss the new territorial arrangements. Kim laughed, a sound with no humor in it. They want to discuss. 5 years ago, they offered us committee meetings, while our children's bodies were still warm. Now they want to negotiate. What should I tell them? Kim stood and walked to his window, looking out at Seoul's skyline. The city had grown during the war, filled with monuments to New Eden's dead and factories that built the weapons of human dominance. In the distance, construction crews were building new government buildings to manage humanity's expanding empire. Tell them there's nothing to discuss, Kim said. The new arrangements are whatever we decide they are. On the former Vrek's homeworld, now called New Terra, Captain O walked through a human settlement built where an alien city once stood. Children ran past her, laughing and playing in streets that had been scrubbed clean of alien presence. There, parents worked in gardens planted in soil that had been cleansed of all traces of the previous inhabitants. Commander O, a young teacher, approached her. The children are asking about the memorial wall again. They want to know why we built it so big. O looked at the massive stone structure in the town center. Carved into its surface were 50,000 names. Every human who died on New Eden. The wall was so large it could be seen from orbit, a permanent reminder visible to any ship approaching the planet. Tell them it's so we never forget, O said. And so the galaxy never forgets what happens to those who harm human children. The teacher nodded and walked away. But O remained by the memorial, reading names she had memorized years ago. Children, who would have been teenagers now. Adults, who would have grown old and wise. All gone because aliens had decided human lives didn't matter. A small hand tugged at her uniform. O looked down to see a little girl, maybe 7 years old, with dark hair and curious eyes. Miss Captain, the girl said, my teacher says you were there when the bad aliens hurt people. Is that true? O knelt down to the girl's level. Yes, I was there. I helped make sure they could never hurt anyone again. Good, the girl said simply. My daddy says the galaxy is safe now because of people like you. O watched the child skip away to rejoin her friends. Safe. The galaxy was certainly safe now for human children. But sometimes, in quiet moments like this, O wondered what they had become in making it safe. President Beak gave his final address to the Global Assembly after announcing his retirement. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from humanity's expanded territories, dozens of worlds that had once belonged to alien species, now remembered only in museums. We set out to punish those who murdered our children, Beak said. We succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. The hegemony is extinct. Their worlds are ours. Their fleets are scrap metal. Their species exist only in whatever colonies were far from their home worlds when our fleets arrived. The assembly was quiet, listening to the summary of their 5-year war. Some ask if we went too far, Beak continued. If we became monsters in pursuit of justice, I cannot answer that question. History will judge what we became. But I know this. Human children sleep safely tonight in beds their parents bought with alien blood. And perhaps that is enough. Admiral Jin Park stood on his flagship's bridge, now orbiting Earth after years in deep space. His reflection in the viewport showed a man aged beyond his years, carrying the weight of decisions that had reshaped the galaxy. "Sir," his aide approached, "intelligence reports that the remaining alien species are calling for a new confederation. Council. They want to establish formal peace treaties with humanity." Jin smiled grimly. Peace treaties. They had peace. They chose war when they killed our civilians. "What are your orders, sir?" Jin looked out at the stars, thinking of his sister Yuna and her children who would never see those stars again. Somewhere out there, alien species huddled on their remaining worlds, afraid to provoke the humans who had proven capable of absolute destruction. "Tell them they can have peace," Jin said finally. "Our kind of peace, under our terms, with our rules." The galaxy had learned the price of spilling human blood. Some paid with their worlds. Others paid with their species. All paid with their independence. Human children would grow up safe among the stars, protected by the fear their parents had planted in alien hearts. Whether that made them heroes or monsters, only time would tell.